frantic week that we've just experienced, but story cropped up today.
In 2012, the Republican Party lost the female vote by 12 points. Politics noticed. But Las Vegas has always noticed *everything star. Las Vegas, the city of neon confessions, where vows are made faster than drinks are poured, and forgotten just as easily. A place where records disappear into chapels and memories dissolve under flashing lights. And buried somewhere beneath that glitter is a story that has quietly smoldered for decades. A story Meghan Markle would very much prefer stayed buried. Because long before royal titles, Netflix contracts, and the manicured calm of Montecito, there was a name whispered in Hollywood's back corridors. A name rarely spoken aloud, never officially confirmed. Joe Guiliano. According to long-circulating rumors and sources said to be close to the Guiliano family, this wasn't a fleeting romance or an ambitious co-star connection. They claim it was something far more serious, an alleged first marriage. No tiaras. No balcony. No global headlines. Just a small chapel, a handful of signatures, and a promise that reportedly didn't survive the year. What allegedly ended it wasn't simply distance or diverging careers, but something deeper. Something, family insiders claim, they sensed long before the rest of the world ever knew her name. Those close to Joe's mother say she was initially adored. Charming. Polite. Well-spoken. But there was always a feeling, subtle, unsettling, that it was a performance. As if she were auditioning for a future already mapped out in her mind. And maybe she was. Friends from that era describe a young woman who treated life like a script, always thinking ahead to the next scene, the next role, the next opportunity. She could captivate a room in seconds. Holding on to trust, however, was another matter entirely. The Guilianos, by contrast, were described as traditional, private, old-school Italian-American. Loyalty was sacred. Family came before fame. Reputation was everything. Joe himself was remembered as humble and kind, shaped by those values. So when Meghan entered their world, polished, ambitious, magnetic, they weren't sure what to make of her. At first, they were enchanted. But then came the small moments. The pauses. The perfection. One former acquaintance recalls a Guiliano family dinner where Meghan attended, sweet, engaging, but somehow distant. Every answer seemed measured. Every laugh perfectly timed. As if she were watching herself from the outside. Adjusting the performance in real time. That word, *rehearsed*, comes up again and again in these accounts. Joe's father, according to a friend, once remarked quietly, "She's got Hollywood in her eyes." And that never mixes well with marriage. By many accounts, while Joe was imagining stability, a home, a future, she was already imagining her exit. In private conversations, sources claim she spoke often of wanting more star, something bigger. Something beyond the life in front of her. And if any of this is true, it suggests that the story the world eventually met was not a transformation, but a continuation. A carefully edited second act. And that something wasn't just a better job. It was a whole new identity. By that point, Meghan was already testing the waters, modeling here, acting there, her eyes fixed firmly on Los Angeles. Hollywood wasn't a dream. It was a destination. And Joe, according to those close to the situation, represented a chapter she didn't want following her into that future. When the marriage reportedly began to unravel, insiders claim she didn't simply walk away. She erased it. Photos disappeared. Letters vanished. Any trace of the life they shared was allegedly wiped clean. One source claims Meghan warned Joe directly to stay silent. According to that insider, she told him, "If you ever talk, I'll make sure you regret it." Those close to Joe say he honored that silence, partly out of fear, partly out of heartbreak. For years, he never spoke publicly, never sold his story, never contradicted the version of events the world would later be given. Until now. Decades later, Joe Guiliano's side of the story is beginning to surface. And according to people familiar with it, his account doesn't just point to a brief marriage. It explains why his entire family turned their backs on Meghan. Permanently. A close family friend claims the Guilianos saw through her early on. They noticed how she adapted herself depending on the audience, how her tone shifted, how her background subtly changed depending on who was listening. One moment, she was the humble California girl. The next, she was carefully constructing a self-made origin story that would later become central to her public persona. But what truly broke the family's trust, insiders say, was an incident Joe's mother still refuses to discuss. A confrontation that allegedly happened just weeks before Meghan vanished from their lives entirely. According to those familiar with the evening, it began with a conversation about money. Meghan had been talking openly about moving to Los Angeles to pursue acting. Joe's parents, cautious but supportive, offered advice. Possibly even assistance. But when they asked practical questions, how she planned to fund the move, where she would live, who she would rely on, something changed. She didn't like being questioned, one relative recalled. It wasn't anger. It was colder than that. Calculated. Like she decided, right then, that we were an obstacle, not family. Not long after that dinner, she was gone. No goodbye. No forwarding address. Joe tried calling, writing, even driving to her old apartment. There was nothing. It was as if she had disappeared overnight. Then came the paperwork. A few weeks later, an envelope arrived, a legal notice making it official. The marriage, however brief, was over. And that was supposed to be the end of it. But Meghan Markle's past, critics say, never stays buried. Years later, after her rise to global fame as the Duchess of Sussex, old acquaintances began resurfacing. And some started asking questions about a missing year in her timeline. When reporters reportedly began tracing Las Vegas records, they found inconsistencies, sealed entries, misplaced documents, and a marriage log that appeared to be missing altogether. Coincidence? Possibly. But to the Guiliano family, insiders say, it matched what they had believed all along, that there had been a deliberate effort to erase that first marriage from the record. Now, after years of silence, Joe Giuliano's voice is reportedly breaking through. Not loudly, not sensationally, just quietly, and, according to those who've heard it, devastatingly. In a leaked private conversation with a friend, Joe is said to have remarked, "Asterisk, she told me once, if I ever make it big, no one will ever know you existed." Asterisk. And according to the friend, she meant it. The family, sources say, wasn't angry because she left. They were angry because she denied the truth. Because she pretended that chapter never happened. It's one thing to move on, the source explained. It's another to erase people who loved you like family. That context, insiders argue, is why the Giulianos never reached out after Meghan's royal wedding. No congratulations. No messages. Nothing. They had seen her rewrite her past once before, and they knew they were part of the version she wanted the world to forget. As the royal PR machine crafted a polished, self-made narrative, the Guiliano family's silence only strengthened the myth. But silence doesn't last forever. According to those close to him, Joe's patience has worn thin. After years of protecting her image, watching from the sidelines as her version of history left him out entirely, he is now prepared to tell his truth. And from what's being hinted, it isn't kind. In that same leaked call, Joe reportedly said a single sentence that sent shockwaves across social media. "Her family didn't reject me. Mine rejected her." Asterisk, that line reframes everything. The question isn't why Meghan left Joe. It's why Joe's family wanted nothing more to do with her. And according to what Joe is now ready to reveal, the answer may be darker, and far more personal, than anyone expected. Because for the Giulianos, Meghan Markle was never just a youthful mistake. She was a warning. A storm that never stopped performing. As one longtime family friend put it, asterisk, when she left, we didn't lose a daughter-in-law. We dodged a hurricane. Asterisk. Now, as alleged receipts and long-buried testimonies begin to surface, Meghan's carefully guarded past appears to be unraveling, one missing page at a time. And this time, insiders say, it may not be so easily silenced. When Joe Giuliano's interview began circulating, sources close to the Sussex orbit claim Meghan reacted intensely. One insider described the moment as nuclear. According to them, she was visibly shaken by a particular line, Joe saying his parents adored her until the cameras came out and that she wanted more. That single sentence cut through years of careful image management. Not because it accused her of anything illegal, but because it punctured the illusion. It humanized a version of Meghan she has long tried to leave behind. The polished rebrand, the soft focus wisdom, the empowered Duchess. Narrative. Suddenly, critics said, it all felt like a stage set with the lights turned on. Inside Montecito, insiders described the mood as volatile. Prince Harry, accustomed to navigating royal crises, allegedly urged her to step away from the phone. Meghan, however, according to those same sources, went straight into damage control mode. Statements were drafted. Talking points circulated. Emphasis was placed on how difficult past relationships had been before she found true love. But the strategy didn't land. Joe hadn't presented himself as angry or vindictive. He came across as reflective, soft-spoken, heartbroken. He didn't accuse, he mourned. I wanted to marry her, he reportedly said. But I think she wanted to marry the version of herself she believed she could become. The line went viral. Within 48 hours, the internet filled with old photographs, grainy college-era images of Meghan and Joe at NYU events. No crowns. No couture. Just two young people, hand in hand. The narrative practically wrote itself. The man who knew her before the crown. Then came the headline that insiders say truly rattled her. Why Joe Giuliano's family rejected Meghan Markle. According to a source who allegedly spoke to a British tabloid, Joe's parents had grown uneasy with Meghan's fixation on status. His mother, the source claimed, felt Meghan spoke more about Hollywood than home, more about who noticed her than who loved her. Clips resurfaced. A teenage Meghan on a London tour, joking about meeting the Queen. The irony was not lost on the internet. For Meghan, this wasn't just gossip, it was reputational damage. Because it fed the one narrative she has always rejected, that her ambition wasn't principled, but ravenous. Inside Montecito, insiders claim the pressure boiled over. Meghan was reportedly furious, accusing the press of distorting Joe's words and suggesting, without evidence, that palace forces were fueling the leak. They're trying to make it seem like I was always like this, she allegedly said. The timing couldn't have been worse. She had just begun quietly reviving her lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard Star. Features were planned. Partnerships teased. Instead, outlets pivoted overnight, running retrospectives titled Who was Meghan before Harry? The rebrand stalled before it launched. Prince Harry, sources say, stood by her publicly, but privately felt drained. One former palace aide reportedly remarked, he thought they'd escaped the tabloids. But her past keeps following them. Meghan allegedly attempted another pivot, reaching out to sympathetic journalists to suggest Joe's interview had been taken out of context. Joe declined further comment. That silence proved devastating. Then came the televised sit-down, a controlled, emotional attempt to reclaim the narrative. It was meant to feel vulnerable. Instead, viewers read it as guarded. When asked about Joe, Meghan smiled tightly. People change, she said. Some people can't handle that. Audiences noticed the flicker, the tension between openness and restraint. The same one critics pointed out years earlier. It didn't feel empowering. It felt defensive. Online, clips of Meghan's response circulated alongside Joe's calm, nostalgic remarks. Sympathy tilted, not toward the Duchess, but toward the man left behind. She left love for fame, one viral comment read. Classic Hollywood story. Even industry insiders reportedly took note. One producer was quoted as saying the Guiliano revelations landed harder than any royal controversy, not because they were scandalous, but because they stripped away myth. By the third week, sources say, crisis mode was fully engaged. Actual social channels went quiet. And for the first time in a long while, Meghan Markle wasn't controlling the story. The story was controlling her. Planned press appearances were quietly cancelled. Invitations stopped coming. Even the few celebrity friends who once praised her publicly suddenly had scheduling conflicts. It was the one thing Meghan Markle was never prepared for: isolation. According to reports, she attempted to reach Joe Giuliano privately, hoping to defuse the situation, maybe even reset the narrative. He didn't respond. Once again, his silence spoke louder than any interview, and insiders say it rattled her deeply. Behind closed doors, sources claim the blame started spreading. PR advisors, friends, even Prince Harry. But beneath the anger, those close to the situation say, was fear. Because Joe's story wasn't just an ex-boyfriend speaking out. It was a mirror. It reflected a version of Meghan the public hadn't seen in years. The woman before the titles, before the branding, before the crown-adjacent polish. The woman critics say was always scanning the horizon for the next stage. As one commentator on British television put it, Joe Giuliano didn't destroy Meghan Markle. He revealed her blueprint. That line went viral. And suddenly, the person who had once mastered narrative control found herself trapped inside one she could no longer steer. Prince Harry reportedly urged her to step back, to stop engaging, to let the moment pass. But insiders say Meghan refused to retreat. "They want me to disappear," she allegedly told her team. "I'll make them choke on my silence." But the silence never came. Every statement, every appearance, every attempt to clarify only reignited the controversy. What began as a quiet, reflective interview had now become her loudest reputational crisis since the Meghan media wars years earlier. By the time the dust began to settle, Montecito no longer felt like a sanctuary. Sources describe it as a fortress: heightened security, rising staff turnover, and tension between Harry and Meghan thick enough to be felt in every room.